Hello, Mrs. Carper. I am here to follow up on my observation of your ESL class.
I do not use the SIOP model.
I am sorry to hear that. Tell me how you clearly define content objectives in your lesson.
I do not use the SIOP model.
Okay. What about your content objectives?
They are in the book. The students know we are going to be reading.
I see. I did not notice any supplementary materials to make the lesson more clear and meaningful.
Everything is in the book. There is no time for supplementary materials. Oh. Once I did bring in a jar of fireflies. Many of the students did not have a contextual reference to help them with the meaning of the word firefly. This gave a chance for the students to see a real-life example of fireflies. The students were illuminated. Tee-hee. However, there is no time to use the SIOP model.
That's too bad. I did notice that you use speech that is appropriate to your students' proficiency level, speaking slowly with clear enunciation.
Of course. I got that from the SIOP model.
Your students read the story of The Anxious Leaf. Then they answered multiple choice questions orally. There did not seem to be any opportunity for students to use strategies such as GIST or Squeeper.
That is right. We cannot implement the SIOP model. There is no time for such things. If it is not in the book, I cannot use it.
Tell me, Mrs. Carper, how do you provide frequent opportunities for interaction and discussion in your lessons?
There is no time for frequent interaction and discussion. Sometimes I will ask a clarifying question and see if the student can answer it. If they cannot answer it, I will answer it for them myself. There is no time to implement the SIOP model.
So you have said. Mrs. Carper, I observed that you used scaffolding in your lesson when you asked the first question after the reading. Do you recall?
I do not use the SIOP model.
Yes. We have established that. What about the scaffolding? You asked the question, what words in the first sentence give you a clue what anxious means? Do you remember how you used scaffolding after that?
I believe it was by saying, now we know this is called the anxious leaf. But what words in the first sentence? And if you want to look back at the first sentence, you may give us a clue about what anxious might mean.
Yes. That seemed to clarify it for the students. Mrs. Carper, are you able to have your students use previewing or predicting strategies?
There's very little time for such things. The students learn English by reading the book and answering the questions. They also write their answers sometimes. I have them write short reports in their writing class. The strategies are in the student book.
In your reading class, do you include strategies such as word banks, or summarization, or any type of application of the vocabulary to the students themselves?
There is no time to use the SIOP model. If the book includes examples of these things, we will use them in the lesson.
I see. In my observation, I did not notice you using demonstrations, gestures, or body language to make your meanings clear.
I think I am friendly.
I see. Do you think you give your students sufficient wait time before moving on?
I cannot give too much wait time. Our class time is very short. If the students wait too long to reply, we will run out of time. I will help them come up with a response if they don't reply quickly enough.
Okay. Are you able to collaborate with your students' home-based content teachers?
There is no time to co-teach with the content teacher. I will sit in with the students a couple of times a week. If they are struggling with their work, I will help to clarify it for them. I do not teach content material to my students. The SIOP model is not something I can apply.
I know. What about integration with the content teacher's material?
I help the ESL students when I am with them in their home-based classroom. In my ESL classes, we use the book. I really cannot do integration with content material. I don't use the SIOP model.
What do you use for your ESL teaching approach?
My ESL colleagues and I have chosen to focus on the 4 TESOL language domains: listening, speaking, reading, and writing. The ESL teachers address that through the curriculum. For example, if they were doing a science project, instead of focusing on the science material, such as, what is the water cycle? I'm going to help them with their reading about the water cycle or speaking about the water cycle, rather than teaching content. I do not use the SIOP model.
Mrs. Carper, what are the most significant hurdles you have in teaching ESL students here?
There's very little time to be creative with preliminary preparation. Linking concepts to the student's background experience is quite difficult with our time constraints. Our limited contact time is not conducive to comprehensive interaction or in-depth discussions. Hands-on materials are not practical in our makeshift environment.
Are there any other problems with the ESL program that you are facing?
There are only 2 ESL teachers for the district. We really need at least a 3rd teacher, and preferably an aide also. But that seems out of the question for now.
Well, perhaps that will change as the needs for ESL instruction grow. Thank you, Mrs. Carper.
It was no problem at all. Gotta run. Oh, yes. Just one more thing. I want to be completely clear about it. I do not
use the SIOP model. Clear as a bell. In conclusion, the observation of Mrs. Carper's ESL pull-out class was something of a disappointment to me. Largely due to factors beyond her control, such as scheduling, student-teacher ratio, and insufficient staffing, Mrs. Carper's circumstances do not lend themselves well to implementation of the SIOP model or its components, so she does not use the SIOP model. Duh. Echevarria states that it is through the study of content that students interact in English and that the processes of listening, speaking, reading and writing develop interdependently with such content study. Any attempt to employ SIOP model practices will fall short, if not executed in connection with content. Mrs. Carper's attempts to use some of the sheltered instruction principles are noble. However, more could be accomplished with more staff, more intensive scheduling, and better funding. In the end, inadequate funding is likely the most significant reason that more cannot be accomplished in this ESL program. Because adequate funding is so critical to the implementation of any serious education effort, our education system must find more significant ways to fund our education needs. Thank you.